We're joined today by Hillary. She's the president of Strellmark LLC for Business Development Consultants, and Tom Wolf, who has been once homeless and is now a recovery advocate. Welcome to First Edition.
Pleasure to be with you, Krisha and John.
Good morning. Tom, let's start with you. Can you share with our audience your experiences and how you got yourself, let's say, from rock bottom to actually landing on your feet and starting to really realize your own potential, but also the American dream?
Well, gosh, so in 2018, I had surgery on my foot. I was prescribed oxycodone for the pain. I got addicted to it. Over the next 2 years, that spiraled into a heroin addiction and eventually led to my homelessness, where I ended up living on the streets of San Francisco, homeless, addicted to heroin and fentanyl. And it was through, compassionate accountability. I started getting arrested on the street, where I went to jail. I got clean. I ended up going to rehab at the Salvation Army, where I found recovery, and I've been clean and sober for over 6 years now. And look, this is the thing we have to realize on the streets right now is that there's a massive drug crisis amongst the homeless population. And until we recognize that and actually start to work towards getting people clean and sober and get them job training and get them back into society, reintegrated back into society, this problem is just going to continue.
Wow, your story is,
Absolutely.
It's an incredible one, and also the fact that mental health is really a major, major problem in our nation. And Hillary, I mean, dealing with finances for people who are struggling right now, a lot of people are feeling pressure, especially in the run-up to the holidays. What can businesses and everyday Americans do to shore up their savings, even if it's short-term, to keep their heads above water? I mean, as mentioned, especially those small business owners.
Yes, well, first of all, might I just say, Krisha, before I answer that, if you don't mind, Tom's story is absolutely heart-wrenching while also inspiring as to sort of the Hollywood ending. But as a taxpayer, could I say it's gut-wrenching that we are spending millions on the illegals, 21 million illegals in this country, instead of people like Tom and our veterans and other Americans that have suffered. So just really ghastly. Now to your question, well, actually, my mummy always used to say, and I've been a single mother for many, many years, raising many children. She always used to say, darling, look after the pennies and the pounds will take care of themselves. I mean, that's the English perspective. But I always say, yes, be fiscally conservative. That actually sounds very un-American, doesn't it? Don't go out and buy tons of gifts. I even still have the same gift as a child that I had, which is one English Monopoly. I still have that. We had one gift every Christmas. Now directly to your question with regard to business owners, it is look at what will drive the top line, not trying to save to the bottom line. So what can you do in terms of growth? My whole emphasis and my whole consulting practice is business development. You can do all the cost savings you want. So do what I just said. Look, be sensible, be fiscally conservative, but drive the top line. What can you do to make consumers want to come to you? I'll tell you what retailers are doing, and the smart retailers are doing this holiday season in particular. There is far more loyalty, banner loyalty, which is what it's called in retail. Banner loyalty is people will go to their same store, but they will come down in the product offering if they don't have the budget. So what does that mean? It means that people will go to the same, say, a Walmart or a Target, wherever they choose to go, but they'll go down in a product. Rather than buying a steak, they might buy, sausages or hot dogs. So very importantly, make sure you have a good, great, better option. In other words, someone will still come to your establishment, still come to your retail store, whether you're clothing, whether you're food, whatever you are. If you're a retailer, make sure in your shop you have those options to go down different levels, because the consumer is ever cost conscious.
You're absolutely right about that. And Tom, we appreciate you sharing your story and the fact that you found optimism in a situation of despair, because not too many people do. So they need to hear more stories, real life experiences like yours. But the experts have said that the homeless problem is so complex. There's no easy way to fix it. Why? Because it's rooted in poverty, lack of affordable housing, along with medical situations like you just described, psychiatric issues and challenges, as well as substance abuse issues. So, Tom, do you see the crisis improving when President Trump returns to the White House? And in your experience, what needs to happen first?
Well, President Trump has been very clear that he's going to take a different approach from the Biden administration, where there's going to be some more intervention on the street. There's going to be a focus on interim solutions. It's what they call it, building more shelters, basically giving folks on the street a couple of choices that, look, you can't stay here anymore, so you have to go to this shelter or this tiny home. Or if you're committing crimes on the street, let's say to support your addiction, you're going to be held accountable. And look, I want to make clear, just to play off of what my colleague is saying, is that, look, the more homeless people that you see in your downtown area, the fewer people are going to go downtown and go shopping and go spend that money. San Francisco this year, which is where I live, our Union Square, which is our shopping hub, its Black Friday was dead. There was hardly any shoppers down there spending their money. Instead, they were going out to the suburbs and going to the malls, and it all has to do with those street conditions, with the thousands of homeless that you see on the street, cars being broken into, et cetera. People aren't going to go to a city or a downtown like that and spend their money if they don't feel safe. And I think that that's the biggest thing that's going to change under the Trump administration.
That is a very important difference for people to feel safe when they walk into even just grocery stores or bodegas or the pharmacies. I mean, Hillary, we're seeing toothpaste behind glass cases. It's such a sad state of affairs. But Donald Trump did ring the opening bell last week. That was a major moment for him. What else can we expect from a Trump economy? He didn't answer where to invest and whether the economy will ultimately, quote unquote, rip as he enters. But where can we expect to see some strong points?
Well, Krisha, actually, the easier question is where won't we see any strong points? Because that would be only a few things. It will take me hours to go over all the many things he's going to do. I'm going to actually give you some key pointers as to where and how. But let me just mention this. Over the weekend, I was at that Army-Navy game. I was a few boxes down in one of the owners' suites. The mainstream media and the national media has underestimated, Newsmax reported on it, but even still, no one was saying what actually happened in that stadium. I was there. You should have heard the spirit, the cheering. Now, obviously, you could say that's a more Republican-leaning crowd, Army, Navy, but why does this link to exactly what you were just asking about? Well, it isn't just his policies that he's going to implement. It's consumer sentiment. Consumer sentiment and business sentiment has so much influence. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy in the business community. So a few things here. Number one, think about Scott Bessent, the head of the Treasury that he's appointing. He's actually come, Krisha, with a 3-point plan. When was the last time you heard a government bureaucrat come in with an actual plan and actual goals? 3-point plan. He's going to actually increase by 3 million barrels a day oil production. He's going to reduce the deficit down to 3%. He's going to increase GDP up to 3%. The 3 by 3 by 3 plan. Donald Trump is, so with regard to the oil part of that, we're going to drill, baby, drill. Why does that have a direct impact on every American? Because over 211 products actually use petroleum in them. I've looked at that list, Krisha, I'll never pretend to remember it all. What shocked me was that diapers even use petroleum, things you'd never dreamt of in day-to-day products. So I think you're going to have drill, baby, drill. And from a business perspective, my part of the world, which is decreased regulations. I have a little small business. Do you know how much money I have to spend on an accountant and on all the procedures I need to do in my state in terms of complying with all these things? When a lot of that is eliminated, I can be more productive. Less of my money will go just on dealing with those regulations. The National Association of Realtors has said that 31 regulations are imposed on new housing construction on average, of course, different by state and county across the US. But once we have a housing boom that will come from those reduced regulations, the simple ripple effect will affect consumers because people buy more when they're buying a new house. I could go on with many policies, but I think you've heard quite a few there. And one last thing to what Tom said. Tom was so right about consumers not spending where it's dangerous. And one of my ideas for Donald Trump is, what should we do with all the homeless people? Once we get rid of the illegals and we get them out of the free housing, just move the homeless into the free housing we've already been paying for that was not for Americans.
Well, on that note, Tom, we only have about 15 seconds or so. Is there anything that you want to share with our audience?
Well, just, don't give up hope. There's a new day coming in January with President Trump taking over. And if we do what she says we're going to do and what President Trump says we're going to do, we're going to have more housing, more opportunities, and the economy is going to improve. That trickles all the way down to the homeless, and you're going to see that homelessness rate go down.
Absolutely. I just want to say before we close it, Tom, I appreciate you getting up this early because you said that you live in San Francisco, so I appreciate you joining our audience this morning.